what happened at Barnwood in terms of your thinking and the process you went through. So Barnwood's been going quite a long time as an organisation, and sort of why that transition?
Yeah, so when it started in 1962, it was founded by 5 or 6 directors who had all come from other
Sorry.
Talking to me. Other contractors in the area. I guess they had quite high morals in the sense they always wanted Barnwood to be an independent company and they wouldn't borrow any money. And they set down some sort of unwritten rules that each set of directors have had to abide by, or supposed to abide by. Anyway, it was privately owned between the directors, and they were varying ages. And over the years, they did exactly as Simon said. They lived frugally, they built up cash reserves, and as one of them retired, their shares were bought out. And then as new directors entered the business, some of them were given the opportunity to buy shares, and say they came in at 2.5%, and other directors sold out at 2.5%, would come 10%, 20%, and so on. It worked really quite well for a number of years until it got to the sort of early 2000s, when we ended up with one director who's still in his 80s that couldn't exit the business because he was too big a shareholder, and we only had 2 other these sort of directors who were shareholders. So it started to become a problem, but then what we did, wrongly or rightly, is we appointed a whole load of new minority shareholders, which was basically the current board at the time. And the major shareholders has exited over a few years up until 2014. So there we were, a group of, I can't remember, there was 7 or 8 of us, all shareholders of this business, but we were all the same age. So the plan originally of stashing cash away and us retiring wasn't going to work. We all wanted to go at the same time, or virtually the same time. So it was wheels were going to come off. We also they had the traditional sort of problem of who was our next generation, because we were the younger guys that had taken over, and we didn't have we hadn't set up a senior management team below us that was anywhere near advanced enough to start taking on or even any interest in buying into the business. So it just wasn't going to work. So we had cash, we couldn't work out how to get out. We had to, because of our original sort of founding directors dictates, we had to make sure Barnwood retained as an independent company. So selling to a national contractor was not really an option. And as Simon's already said, selling a construction company is fraught with problems. I mean, principally because we've built literally hundreds of buildings and done hundreds of contracts, and we're liable for 12 years through warranties on most of those jobs. And so if anyone valuing the company could easily dream up a whole host of reasons why there are skeletons in the cupboard, and why the value is, would be heavily discounted. So it just doesn't work. We thought of a management buyout, but again, we didn't have the SMT in place. And also, to get the entrepreneur's tax relief, the directors would have to exit the business. And again, we couldn't have the whole board exit over one day, or the business wouldn't be carrying on. So we had to find a way that the existing directors could keep working, and to give us sufficient time to develop the next generation of the management team. But we had cash. So we spoke to our accountants, and eventually EOT was mentioned. It felt good when they said it. Apart from the obvious tax benefit, it actually felt the right thing to do. We employ over 200 people. A lot of them are trades on sites, and it just felt in line. It was in line with our culture, our ethos, and there wasn't. If like the founding directors were real entrepreneurs and were of an age really where they dictated what was going on, and the old school management, whereas the new generation were more how can I put it? It's more managed more by collaboration rather than dictation, if you like. So it felt the culture was right, the ethos was right, and it felt like we'd reward the right people. So then we entered into valuing the company, getting the process going. We decided to go for 100%. Again, referring back to Simon, we just couldn't see any point in retaining anything. We discounted the valuation. I think we took about 15% off the market valuation just because of our consciences, I suppose. We just didn't feel that we should take 100% of the market value. And we excised the EAT. So we took 50% of the cash, or 50% of the value, and then the 50% was going to be deferred payments over 5 years. We appointed 3 trustees. One was an existing director, one's Gemma, our HR manager, and we put a local solicitor who worked with us for many years. And then we went through the process of explaining it to the staff, disseminating it across everybody, doing presentations. And I must say, generally, the employees were positive and it was well accepted. That we have got, of course, like any organisation, some cynical people, what's in it for you, what's in it for us, and it wasn't 100%, but it never would be. Then unfortunately the pandemic started, and this made sort of fueled cynicism really, but we've got through the pandemic, hopefully, touch wood, and we're on, and people are realizing that it was what it was, and there's nothing hidden behind it. So Gemma heads our employee representative board, and we've got them elected. In fact, there weren't a huge number of volunteers, so we basically anyone who volunteered could go onto the board. She's done an extremely good job managing these people, and I've got to, it's a fair warning that people become shareholders, or at least a member of an employee ownership trust, they suddenly start to think they can tell me what to do. And we have to very politely tell them, no, I'm running the company. I make the decisions, but or the board makes the decisions, but you can certainly say whatever you want to, but I'll take account of it. It has been useful to have the group to bounce ideas off, and certainly we're celebrating our 60th year of business this year, and we were going to do quite a flash dinner dance and through the employee representative board, they came back and said, no, we don't want to take our wives, we want to go down the pub and have a free bar. So we took it on board, but also our corporate social responsibility donations, we allow them to get heavily involved with that, and some of the initiatives you were talking about in terms of diversity and other sort of factors to get people into our industry. So we started, first year we had quite a good trading year, and so apart from the distribution going to the previous shareholders, 10% of profits were equally distributed to all employees. So they all got about 2,000 something or other tax-free in the first year, which of course was popular. Unfortunately, in the second year, due to the pandemic, profits were down, so it was a fraction of that. But again, they've got to learn life as shareholders. It's not all jam on the cake, as it were. So I think on the advantages, we have, I say majority of staff have bought into it, and I would like to think we've got a more highly motivated staff and employees. We've had a lot of support from clients, which I didn't expect, but we have. They seem to respect us. They're particularly relieved to know that we're not going to be sold out to a Boeing or to a major construction company. I think the disadvantage has probably been the existing directors. I've got to go back to trustees now if I want to do something, and it's getting used to those sort of behaviours. But really, that's not, it's just like having another conscience somewhere. It's not really a pain. And then the reward structure, something Simon touched on for future directors, where we have got the EMI scheme. I think it is it is quite workable and it is quite good, but depending on the ambitions of certain directors, they may have wanted to become sort of major shareholders one day, and that obviously isn't possible anymore. So it may put off the most ambitious of directors, but it's a small disadvantage, but it could occur. And we're on 2 years on, over 2 years on now, and it's been a good experience for us overall. So I would recommend it.
Oh, thank you. And is, Gemma, from your point of view of engaging the staff and managing your trustee board, how's that been?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been a new experience for me. I've never obviously been involved in employee ownership trusts before. But yeah, I think the employee part, I guess 2 years on, I think you can think about what lessons learned, and I think communication is key. What the employees are going to be involved in, what they're not. We've definitely had a few bumps in the road. You change something and someone would say, oh well, we own the business, can we not decide this? And kind of explaining that 200 people can't vote on everything. So now we're in a really good place. We've got 8 representatives from literally each part of our business. So they can all offer a variety of input, and we meet once a quarter, and we share anything that's kind of going on in the business, any ideas that we're going to put forward, any changes to them. So that part is running really well. And the trustee side, again, we meet once a quarter. The trustee role, to be honest, is probably the one that's the most unique, because you've got your day job, what you're doing, and day to day you working with the directors and in your normal job, and then you've got to have obviously a really independent head as a trustee, and be able to kind of ask questions and get that information. So I think probably that's the other thing that's really important when you set up an EOT. You've got to make sure you've got the right people in place, and they're all really clear on what their responsibilities are. But yeah, it's 2 years on. We've got a good system in place. So yeah, it's really positive, and it's lovely for the employees. Having 10% of group profits is a real motivator. And someone very early on in the journey said, the main way to motivate people is with dividend. And there's many other things to it, but that is really key for people. It's tax-free up to £3,600, which makes a huge difference to any normal bonus scheme that people can have. So yeah.
No, thank you. No, yes, it does, and particularly at the moment, that opportunity to get extra income for people must be very highly motivating as well for people.
Yeah.
Is there any, either for Simon Warren or Simon or Gemma, anybody got a question or anything they're interested in? I mean, I was looking at the top 50. There's IT companies, risk management company. There's all sorts of software, healthcare. There's a fruit and veg shop. So it's really broad in terms of the kind of companies that go down that route. Is there any, Jason, do you have a?
Yeah, just one for Simon. Financing. Can a company borrow money in order to be able to put this deal together, or is it generally done with internal cash and earnouts exclusively?
All the normal financing options are available here, so it is possible to get third-party financing in. Okay. Probably the wrinkle here is that who should get that loan? Should it be the company? Should it be the trust? You've got to get over that. But I will say that pretty much all the ones we've seen have been cash and earn out.
Okay. So, are you aware of the Shaler's? I can't believe you're not aware of the Shaler's incident.
No.
Well, Shaler's were a construction company in Birmingham, and they did their EOT, and they went to Anglo-Irish, and they borrowed 15 million.
Mm-hmm.
Promptly went bust.
Oh.
And the former shareholders walked away with the 15 million, and the creditors of the company got, well, not a lot.
Oh.
So I think financing an EOT, you might be asked some questions nowadays.
And if I was on the board of the trustees of that EOT must also be sort of worried as well. But if I was the directors and that you've got to wonder whether the directors acted properly there, haven't you?
I think, yeah, I wouldn't. Well, not to cast aspersions, but I think I'd look at that valuation a bit closer.
Just wonder. Just wonder at the moment.
Doug, you have a question?
Yeah, two parts to my question, I'm afraid. Firstly, I'm interested in whether or not you found it's made any difference to kind of staff retention and ability to recruit. And the other part is, in terms of the distribution and the 10% that you're giving out, are there restrictions around kind of how you distribute that? Does it have to be even across all employees, or can you weight it to kind of more senior or link it to salary or anything else?
I think I'll take the second of those, which is there is some flexibility in there. The trust is set up for the benefit of all the employees, but it doesn't necessarily mean all the employees equally. So you can set up things there which give variations for seniority, length of ownership, length of tenure, and those sorts of things. As to staff ownership, I think that's not for, or staff retention, that's not for me.
Yeah, how we do our scheme, you've got to be with the company for 12 months before you become eligible for the bonus. We do it equally. It doesn't matter about length of service or anything like that. It seems to work a little bit better for us. We have separate kind of profit related bonus schemes alongside this. So this one particularly was specifically even, and apart from if you're part-time, it's prorated for that. In terms of employee retention, I wouldn't say it's changed. We do have a really good employee retention at Barnwood. What I do find is when you're explaining it to new hires as part of the process of getting them on board, it's probably just the understanding of EOTs isn't that widely known. So we do always tend to default back to the John Lewis arrangement because that's something people are really familiar with. But yeah, in terms of everything with EOTs, we found banks and the way the banks are set up, insurance and insuring directors of the, of the trustees, etc. You tend to go through lots of questions, lots of explaining. It's slightly new world for a lot of people we work with. So yeah, it's quite interesting. It takes a lot of explaining. New hires do find it though quite an incentive when we start talking about they own the business, they we work collaboratively, etc.
Yeah, is there anything else? I'm conscious of the time, but I'll but we can pick up the conversations if that's all right, Simon, both Simons and Gemma, with people if you reflect and you've got some particular questions you want to follow up with. I'm going to hand over, that's all right, to, I think, Drew, you're going to lead the presentation, but we've got Emma Stevens as well with us from Corinthian Wealth Management. So I'm going to hand over to Drew, if that's all right.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me? It's the first check.
Yes.
Looks like. Very good. So I'm just going to